I know all the ways that we can't get something done. Mm-hmm. I know all the ways that people are going to tell you no, and they're going to tell you it's implausible and you don't have enough resources. I want to work with the people who get creative, and they show me how we can get it done.
That's Danielle Eden. Among many things, she's an actress, dancer, and documentary filmmaker. We talk about what it takes to finish a project, even when the odds are stacked against you.
When I said I was going to make a movie in Arkansas, most people told me I was just legitimately insane. Like, you can't make a movie for $4,000. Watch me.
We discuss how she made the transition from on-camera to director, developing trusting relationships, and how to deal with rejection.
I just ask, because, like, what are you going to say? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, certainly you will not be the last person to say no.
This is The Ground Up Show. Okay, and they're both rolling. And because you can see this one too anyway, right? Like, you can pop up just because, like, I get paranoid because the first one I ever did was by myself. And you have to put a hack on these cameras because they only record for 30 minutes.
Sure.
So I just don't trust that. And I just don't trust technology. And it could overheat. It could just stop recording. So you record an hour and a half podcast, and then I'm just expecting to look at it, and then it's not recording. So actually, it was a friend. So I said every 30 minutes I'm going to get up and I'm going to just check.
We're just going to check it.
I need to. Otherwise, the entire time I'm going to be thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I understand that.
Oh man, it can be stressful as a filmmaker.
Yes. It's about managing mistakes, right?
It's all about mistakes.
Yeah.
Because you make so many of them, and then that's probably with anything, with acting.
Yeah.
Any skill, you just have to keep making mistakes and learning from those. But it sucks if it's like high stakes. If somebody's paying you for it, then you're like, oh, I can't screw up now.
You just can't screw up.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot about, like, I've always said that if you start thinking that you have figured it all out, then you've literally lost the game.
Yeah.
Because if you don't look at your work and be like, oh, there's 10 things in this one shot that I want to change, then you just haven't learned anything from the process of making the film, and your next one is not going to get any better.
Isn't that like it's great and it's sad at the same time?
It is.
The fact, because like
you can't do anything about it. Like,
I know.
There's nothing you can do. You want to reshoot, you can't do it. And a documentary, you definitely can't reshoot. So you just have what you have.
Like, deep down, I just want to love everything I do, because that's why when you're making it, all you care about is kind of creating this perfect or as close to perfect thing as you can.
Right.
And then you look back at it after a year and you're like, that was the worst thing I've ever made. And like, I know me, I can find the flaws better than anybody else can.
There's nobody harder on me than me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh God, there was a point I was making this movie. It was called James Franco is My Boyfriend. It was like a little short mockumentary. And there was a point in time where I literally looked at the film. I like pushed my laptop away and I was like, this is garbage. Like, you've made garbage, because I just couldn't figure out a music cue. Yeah. Like, I literally was like, it doesn't work. Timing sucks. Everything sucks. It's all garbage. Yeah. But then, you find the song and it hits you in the middle of the night and the song works, and then the film starts working again. And, I think everybody has that like moment of panic in making a movie where they don't think it's going to work. And then usually you just like pull through and you find something to make it work.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, is that it's about persistence and like never stopping. Cause like I've had that on most projects I've done. I think with client work, it can be a little bit easier because you can kind of start to figure out a recipe in terms of how to create. If it's a 2 to 3 minute video, that's easy. And if you're doing, say, an event video, I just know that, all right, I have a slow little build up, maybe a couple like lines from these interviews, and then the music drops, and then there's B-roll cut back,
everyone's having fun.
And then you cut back and forth between interviews, and there's like a recipe there that you can create. And every once in a while you get a little bit stuck if the interviews might be a little bit more difficult to navigate. But on a big project, on an original project, it's like you can't create a formula for it, or else you're just going to fail.
No, you have to sort of plan for every possible scenario and know that the one you did not plan for is the one that will happen.
Yeah. Every time.
Every single time.
And it's always something new.
I planned for everything. I got it. And then something. Like the thing you thought, you're like, it would never, ever rain that day. and then it would
That's
rain.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
Especially with documentary, like it's life that you're capturing. Like you don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing right now, because it sounds like you have kind of a hand on everything right now.
I have a little bit of a hand in everything. I do a little bit of everything. I'm an actor. I'm a director. I write. I've been a performer pretty much my whole life. But I fell into documentary filmmaking maybe like 4 years ago, and I kind of love it. I have this great new project that I've been working on for a year and a half, and it looks like we're going to shoot it this year, which is very exciting. So it's a documentary called Graffiti Cowboy. It's about this street artist. He goes by Thrashbird, and he's this really incredible artist based out west, and he does all this work in like the abandoned areas of America, specifically the West. So what he does is he finds like an abandoned structure, an abandoned factory, and he goes in and basically does a site-specific piece and turns trash into a massive piece of art and essentially disappears. And he's this extreme patriot who's like deeply passionate about art. So we are doing a road trip across America's abandoned West, following him doing this and attempting to break the world graffiti record in the process.
No way.
Yeah,
That
just
is
over a
cool.
mile long. And so it's been such an interesting process working with this artist and getting to know him and sort of his process of how he does this stuff. And it's been very interesting so far.
What's great about it is that the idea is so specific and concrete. And it's like I find that when it's difficult to explain your idea in a couple sentences, then I think you probably haven't done enough work in terms of identifying what the idea is. But it sounds like you have a clear line there, like a goal, like something where the viewers start watching and they know where the end is going to lead, whether it's breaking the record or not breaking the record.
Right. Hopefully we all don't get arrested in the
Yeah,
process.
that could be another end to the documentary.
But either way, it really is like more of an exploration as well on just American decay and identity in art. And, activism has become sort of popular in a strange way these days. And activism in art as well. And he's been an activist for as long as he's been painting. So it's awesome to see that his work is suddenly, I guess, popular, but it's not that it was never unpopular. It's just that people are really hungry for that message now.
So I'm always fascinated and curious as to how an idea like this, how do you find an idea? How do you find this story? How did this come about?
I started interacting with his art back in LA years ago, and I found him to be really funny. I found him to just kind of be like pointing at you and being like, like pay attention, please. So I started following him online. We sort of developed a very like casual social media friendship. I spent a lot of time in Arkansas. There's a lot of abandoned areas in Arkansas. So I'd be like, you should really go there. And then I literally one day I was like, what if we made a documentary about him? So I reached out. He didn't know me at all. Just said, has anybody ever made a documentary about you? And nobody had. He was interested in sort of what I had to say about it. He saw some of my other work, and I just gave him a phone pitch, and we spent 6 months developing on the phone before we even met in person.
Yes, I'm curious, like even specifically, you first sent an email out and said...
It was a DM on Instagram.
Okay.
I didn't even have his email address.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, like I literally didn't even have his email address. And recently, it was like a couple months back, he was like, reaching out cold to people, it just doesn't work. Yeah. And I was like, it doesn't? He's like, never mind, I take it back, because the truth is that I reached out cold and we developed a working relationship and a friendship over the course of this past year and a half. But it really just started as like I felt connected to his work and I felt like it needed to be shared. And he seemed like an interesting person. The person who would create that work to me felt like they had to have a really interesting point of view. So once I got to know his point of view and got to know him better and we started to gain some mutual trust, it turns out I was right. He's super interesting.
Yeah, I think reaching out cold it's not impossible to turn that into something. It's an uphill battle.
Highly improbable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you don't try, if you don't reach out and ask, then it's never going to happen.
Well, the first documentary I made, I literally just reached out and I didn't think they'd say yes. I just was like, hey, how would you feel if I made a documentary about you? And the guy was like, well, let me ask my wife. And he was like, all right, she says it's cool. And I was just like,
no way.
And it was the first film I had ever made. And I was like, oh, I guess we're making a movie.
Now you have to do it.
Now I have to do it. But I love doing it.
Yeah.
And for me, it was such a gift that I mean, because I just didn't want to spend the rest of my life being like, man, it'd be really cool if someone made a movie about this. Or like maybe one day I'll make a movie about that. And I just asked. I just asked because like, what are you going to say? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. You're not going to be the last person to say no to me.
Exactly.
Like, certainly you will not be the last person to say no.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Exactly. I always expect people to say no. If I have a big idea, a crazy idea, if I'm trying to book a really big guest, then I'm like, they're going to say no. Yeah. But I'm going to try.
Right. Because no is not the worst thing to happen. No happens a lot.
Yeah. If people aren't telling you no enough, and as an actor, I'm sure you know this because you have to do all these auditions where just like you do
a lot of
hundreds of auditions and then most of them are no. And then every once in a while you book the right gig for you. But if you're not getting no's, then you're probably not trying, which is,
I tend to agree. It's like, fail harder, fail better.
Yeah.
At a certain point, especially with being an actor, like if I'm not what you're looking for, like I'm not what you're looking for. But I'm also a director, and I know that like sometimes it's just not about whether the person is talented or whether the person, it's just a fit thing. It's a feeling. It's like literally a feeling you get when somebody walks in a room and you're like, they have the feeling that I need.
Yeah.
And you just don't always have the same feelings.
But if you keep failing, like maybe at some point mix it up, do something different.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course. But that's why I say like fail harder, fail better, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
Like keep making choices to see if like maybe this is just not reading right. Maybe they don't get this, you know? And so but it's the same with cutting a movie. You're like, this person's not, like my audience, I don't think is going to get that the character wants to do this. So like, what if we tried it this way? What if we edited that in later? So it's a lot about rearranging and trying to make things palatable for people.
Right. So where did you grow up, and when did you first started getting into the arts and kind of playing around and experimenting?
I grew up outside of DC, and I was a dancer forever. I started professionally tap dancing at like 14, 15, something like that.
Professionally?
I mean, like literally they'd be like they'd give me money to come and tap dance places. And I was like, okie dokie, like that's rad. And I loved it. And I did musical theater. I went to college for theater and acting, musical theater at NYU. And I've always been in the arts. I've always wanted to make film as well. And I actually had a crazy story happen a few years back where a mirror fell on my face and it cut my face open.
Oh my God.
And totally fine now, like all good.
Sure,
but I had like I had like a black eye here, a black eye there. Wow. Like I had stitches across my nose. And I just really was like, maybe I don't want to audition right now.
Right.
Just not feeling very secure about
the Joker.
Right. I remember walking into meetings and people were like what happened to you? So I started working in production essentially. So I was just like, this is a really great time to explore the other things that I wanted to do that I thought were like a little bit further off, like maybe 10 years down the line. But it turned out they were much closer than I thought. So I just started like working my way up on set, music videos, commercials, things like that. I've had a lot of really crazy random jobs over the years.
I bet.
Just
we all do, right?
Yeah.
What's like the craziest, weirdest gig that you've done?
I was a toy demonstrator at Toys R Us Times Square during Christmas time.
Toy demonstrator.
My toy was super elastic bubble plastic, which nobody wants, by the way, which I cannot sell. And I lasted one day.
Oh my God.
I lasted one day. They're like, see you tomorrow. I was like, nope.
You had like a table there or like a little booth?
I had a little table and I had the product, which is essentially like, it's this tube that you basically squeeze a little bit out and you put it on the end of a wand and you sort of like blow it up and it becomes a balloon.
Yeah.
But that's essentially it. Like it just becomes a balloon. It's not that it's like unpoppable either. It's just that it's a balloon that you made.
Yeah.
And you can pop it. Like women would come over with their fake nails and they'd be like, does it pop? And then you'd be like,
and then there it is.
Yeah, you just popped it.
Yeah, now you got to buy it.
Now I got to make a new one.
Yep.
You know? And
that was really your whole day.
It was a very long day that I had.
Yeah.
Being in like the basement of the Toys R Us, seeing Jeffrey the giraffe with the top half of his costume off.
Oh my God, yeah, horrifying.
It was just like my youth. Like, where is it?
Yeah. Some of those early shoots that you had done, what are some of the ones that stand out to you? And maybe some of the ones that you got paid very early on to perform and to do the arts with dancing. Right. In terms of production and film, like what were some of those early shoots where you actually got paid to do and what was your role?
Well, I had an internship. I was sort of an assistant at the Kennedy Center in DC when I was about 17. And that was I worked in development essentially. And so I really just like absorbed everything that my mentor at the time was telling me. He had a lot of information to provide, and I was just listening to all of it. And I definitely was really more of an internship position than anything, but it was absolutely one of the most just the most interesting experiences, because I really I wasn't treated like I was 17. I was really treated with the respect of somebody who was an equal. And so I got to really have an opinion and bring it to the table. And I did all this script coverage for theater, and it really gave me a critical eye. And some of the other shoots I did, I was really lucky to work with some very like gracious directors and producers. There's this one company I worked for a while, and they did a lot of music videos, and they did a lot of commercial, and they were just very gracious and very kind, and they let me jump in. And I'd originally been a music video dancer for them when I was in college.
What music video? Was this a rap video, or is this
No, there was rap in the video.
Sure, okay.
It was a French DJ, and we were mimes that were in Mimes Anonymous.
Amazing.
And music is what made us happy and learn to dance. And also we had magical motorcycle helmets made of glitter.
Sounds like a music video.
So it was really fun. But I was a music video dancer for them originally, and I'd done a couple other spots with them. And I reached out because my face was not in great shape. And I just was like, I'd love to work in production, just to be working in the industry and get my hands into it. And they were just very gracious, and I learned a lot. They allowed me to just be there and absorb so much.
It sounds like you don't really wait around for opportunities. Like
No, I very much am a person who likes to create my own job. Like the job does not exist before I'm like, no, you like need me there.
Yeah.
Which happens to me a good deal, but it's because when I used to wait and try and be patient and go through proper channels and submitting my resumes online, I found that I was coming up against walls, and it just wasn't effective. And for some reason, I wasn't reading through a computer screen, where one-on-one I'm far better. And I really believe, especially in this industry, that relationship building is so important, because the people that you work with now are going to be the people you work with 10 years from now. And as much as you've grown in the last 2 years, so are your peers. You're also growing. And those relationships, like, you don't need to remind people you're an actor. You don't need to remind them of the things you do when you have these relationships, because when the right jobs come along, they'll just send them to you. You need to be like, just so you know, you can cast me in any of your movies if like you need to. It's like, we know you're an actor. Like,
right.
If we need to, like, we will call you.
That's half the battle, right? It's just making yourself known.
Right. But if you build these friendships and relationships, like, we're all helping one another. Yeah. And that's just feels way better. How
do you balance this idea of being very diversely talented and kind of like getting into each of these crafts, whether it's dancing or music, or you're going to be going on a rock show tour soon?
I'm touring with Citizen Zero on the tour with Steel Panther.
So
on Thursday.
That's insane.
I kind of believe like happiness first. Like, really right now I'm trying to do this new thing where I trust like the work that I love and really trying to follow through with it, and like trust the fact that that work is going to lead to the things that I need, and I'm going to be okay, where that wasn't always the case. But I mean, it's a complicated balance. I mean, I don't sleep a ton.
Oh, really? How much sleep do you get a night?
How much sleep do I try to get a night, or how much sleep do I
Both,
get?
Yeah.
I try to go for like my 8 hours, but it's usually around like 5, 6.
Ooh. Yeah, that's tough.
That
sounds on the low end. From what I've done in terms of research, 5, 6 is
5, 6 is tough. I actually like can't even tell you the last time I remember sleeping through the night. I just don't sleep through the night.
Is this because, and I have this where my brain is always going, and I'm always thinking about the next idea.
Yeah.
And like where I found if I want to sleep at night, I have to shut everything down by like 7 or 8. Where it's ideas.
7 or 8.
Well, because I get up at 6:30 usually.
Okay, yeah, no. Pass.
This is probably early for you, right?
Yeah, 6:30 is a non-starter. It's like you're not going to see me before 11 usually. Yeah. But my brain is probably most active between midnight and 3 a.m.
My God. Is that when you get most of your work done?
It's where the ideas literally just like flood in, and I I can't like not let them in.
I know. So how do you jot them? Do you jot these ideas down?
I am a compulsive note taker. I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks per project, I go through them like per month, per week. I mean, I have stacks and stacks.
Do you organize these well, or is it just chaos?
It's a little bit chaos, but that kind of is what I did intentionally, because I feel like sometimes when I start a notebook, there's this pressure that you're like, I'm going to make this notebook like the Notebook. It's going to be very organized. My handwriting is going to be good. And then what you wind up writing is ineffective because you've basically just edited yourself down to like fit into a notebook to make it look nice.
Yeah.
So my rule is like kind of fuck everything and just like let your brain just put whatever you want on the page, however you want to put it. Upside down, sideways, you want pieces of newspaper in there. You need whatever it is, like markers, Sharpies, whatever feels good. Like I just kind of let myself do that.
Yeah, it sounds like
it's not about other people.
Right, and that's how our brains work. It's not very clear. It's just insanity at any given
chaos.
time. But then I think after that, and I probably think that naturally the good ideas will rise up. And if you like kind of look through, it takes sometimes a week or two or even longer to be able to look back and be like, well, that was a shit idea. Like, I don't know what that sentence even means.
Oh, very frequently. Yeah. But the idea I had I shot my first documentary in 2014. The idea is in a notebook that I had in 2012.
Oh, wow.
So I had the idea for Graffiti Cowboy 2017. The idea is in a notebook from 2014 originally. So I'm starting to see the trend that I plant these seeds of an idea very early on, and they sort of cook for a while in the back of my mind, and then they kind of bubble up. And when they sort of are ready to become a real idea, they just let themselves be known in the form of, I guess, some kind of inspiration. And then it's time to start writing again.
So you find yourself at some point in Hampton, Arkansas.
Yes.
Is that right?
That is correct.
This is the strangest of stories, but I love how it turned into a documentary.
I kind of believe in trying to understand your experiences in your life. And for me, I mean, we're artists, so it's a lot about art. And I tried to sort of turn these characters I had met in Arkansas into a work of scripted characters. And I found that they just couldn't even... A scripted version couldn't even begin to measure up to who they really were. So I had to make the doc. But a lot of that was understanding, like, I was like, why was I there? It was just, I basically had to ride out Hurricane Sandy in Arkansas for about a month. And I did not grow up like that, like I had never in my life anticipated that I would be somewhere like that, or that I would also find such a sense of community and love in a place that also is very difficult. It's not an easy town to live in. It really can wear on you. There's a lot of xenophobia. There's a lot of just fear of the unknown, of people who are different. There's a lot of self-segregation that happens within the town. And to sort of see that in a way that I grew up in the suburbs of DC, like that is just not my experience. And so I found this family that I love, and they loved me not because of who I knew or because of anything. It was simply they love you because they love you. And that was a really beautiful thing for me. And it's kind of harder to find that in cities. And I wanted to find a way to share what they had sort of gifted to me just by being themselves. Like they literally are just, they say to me, we are who we are all the time. Like, doesn't change it. And they are 90% happier than 90% of the people I know with 90% less. They have each other. They're elated. They live in such a beautiful way where they just really appreciate everything, and they're very just giving, and it feels good to give.
So who are these people, and what is, like, I saw the trailer. It reminds me a lot. My parents have a cabin, and that's been in the family for years now in upstate Pennsylvania. And like, just really our only neighbor is like 1 mile away. And then there's no neighbors outside of that. It's the kind of place where when you're driving around, everybody waves at each other just because.
Right. And in New York, you're like, put your hand down.
Yeah, exactly.
Put your hand down.
Yeah. In New York, you like walk down the street, even if it's just two people on the street, and you will actively ignore that person. You're like, I'm going to look away. I'm going to look away. I'm going to look away. Okay.
You can't see me. I can't see you. You can't see me. I can't see you.
Exactly. Which is like, I remember growing up, that was a weird concept to me. I always felt as if, because I didn't grow up in a city, that like if you pass somebody, you say hello or you acknowledge, you give them a head nod or smile. Something. But so
that's how you get yourself hurt in New York.
Exactly. Yeah.
Start nodding at the wrong people to be like, what are you looking at?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not what you want.
So tell me about these two subjects, the documentary.
Sure. Well, it focuses around this guy, Jerry, mostly. He has this amazing wife, Lisa, who's a major character as well in the documentary. Jerry grew up in South Louisiana, and when he was about 18, his brother had beaten him up for something he didn't do. And this brother he looked up to quite a bit, and the brother was working on an oil rig off the coast of Louisiana. So he calls up Jerry and he says, I'm going to take you fishing and I'm going to apologize. And sadly, the helicopter crashed off the side of the rig, and the brother passed away on his way to meet Jerry and apologize and take him fishing. Huh. And it was just this really pivotal moment in his life where he wound up moving to a new town. He had dropped out of high school, but in the new town, he met Lisa, and he proposed after something like 2.5 weeks. They've been married for over 35 years. They have this really beautiful marriage. They just love each other endlessly. And because of her, he was even able to go to college, even though he didn't even have a high school diploma. And so he became a science teacher, which he just never thought he'd be able to do something like that. Like, he never thought he'd be able to have that impact. And he was sort of a forgotten kid. And he sees these kids who just don't have enough people like giving them love and giving them the attention and seeing their potential. And he finds the forgotten kids and he forces them into engineering clubs, and he's like, you can do better. And he pushes them, and he takes kids into his home, and like his former students, they come back like literally every day. And like they all eat together, you know, like they're like sons. It's incredible to see. So we went down there to sort of make a documentary about his impact in the community and sort of this family that he's built. The movie is called The Port of Indecision. It's actually the name of the bar behind his house where he likes to sort of hold court every night. He just kind of sits, watches the news, sometimes American Pickers, has like a Bud Light, just like loves to sit there. It's an LSU themed little bar. Mm-hmm. Everyone has signed it over the years. Is it an official bar? No, there's like no exchange of money. Like nobody works there. Yeah. It's just like it's his man cave, you know? Mm-hmm. He's got a dog, sits under his feet all the time. And everyone sort of like comes and just spends the time with him. But what wound up happening is that my producer, who came with me, had the same name as the dead brother and actually looked identical. Whoa. Like haircut, build, mustache. And Jerry, it was towards the end of our shoot, and Jerry, texted me and was like, I've had an epiphany. I need you guys to come to the port, bring the camera. And he basically figured out that his deceased brother, James, had sent us to make this movie. So after 40 years, he can finally have closure, and he knows now that his brother is proud of the man that he became. And that's because we made this film. Mm-hmm. He's like, why you would make a movie about me? Like, I have no idea. Like, what are even the odds of us knowing each other? So it wound up being this sort of unexpected story of closure, the documentary. Wow. And I like to go back every year and I visit them. And,
oh, you do? That's amazing.
Yeah, we got to bring the festival run ended at the film festival in El Dorado, which is this really amazing festival that's sort of on the rise, this up and coming Southern arts community. And it's like 45 minutes from their house. So to be able to bring them to an actual movie theater where people in their community go and see their movie on the screen and to take home Best Documentary was... Wow. It was really a very special way to sort of close the chapter on that film before, putting it online.
What did they think about it?
They love it. I mean, Jerry sometimes will look at me and he'll be like, you're my hero. And I'll be like, I literally haven't done anything that merits that. But it means a lot to them. I mean, every once in a while, Jerry will watch it and he'll text me and he'll be like, I'm in tears. And like, I had a friend who... He watched a very early Rough Cut. He's a really brilliant musician, and he saw this Rough Cut and just asked me, he was like, would you consider letting me write something? I'm like, yes, like, of course. Like, I don't know where or if I can put it somewhere, but like, if you feel inspired, please. And he wrote this beautiful theme song just based off of watching a Rough Cut. And like, in the song alone, I sent it to Jerry and just, he moved to tears over it. And so it was... They really love it and they appreciate it. And in that bar, he sits with his festival pass over his head.
Oh no!
Yeah,
way.
he
That's so
hung
great.
it over his seat, and he
How
just
cool is that?
It's very special
so great
to me.
that you were able to make that movie, and it's often nobody ever really understands unless you're on the inside of a project how many things and can go wrong, how many challenges that you'll have along the way.
Right.
This documentary, you guys didn't have a big budget. I saw you did a Kickstarter. You had about $4,000.
It wound up being ultimately about $5,000 to make the movie, which was insane.
And wait, did you guys have any gear? Did you have anything beforehand?
We had like 2 SLRs, just sort of like scrapping it all together. And there was 3 of us who went down there and made the movie.
And you guys all just kind of went in on this together and you said, we want to make a movie. Nobody's getting paid for this.
They were insane enough to literally just kind of follow me. I love my producer who came with me. He was a saving grace to me the whole time, a very calming presence, because he knows I also don't sleep. So sometimes he'd be like, Danielle, go take a nap. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They'd be like, just like go to bed. Like
put down the camera.
Yeah. Go to bed.
Yeah.
Go to bed. Because we all basically lived in like a 1-room house together. So there's 3 of us. It was me and these 2 guys, and they believed in it. I mean, I think I kind of pressured my producer into it. I think I sat him down and I bought him a smoothie one day and I was like, here's the thing. Like, you will say yes at the end of this meeting. You'll give me a hard yes. He's like, well, I have to move the month after. And I was like, you're going to say yes. I'm going to book the tickets tonight and you're going to say yes.
Yeah.
And maybe that worked. But his presence wound up sort of making the movie what it was. So I guess it all works out. But
So break it down for me. You guys have about less than $5,000. That's crazy. Like to make a movie.
It was so insane.
Like, how did you logistically go about it? Did you guys rent any camera gear, lights, or anything like that, or did you keep?
We bought used SLRs, like cheap SLRs, and
that's what part of the budget you used was to buy these cameras. What SLRs?
Like a T2i.
Okay. Yeah. This is grassroots.
Yeah. They say like the best camera to shoot on is the camera you have. Well, that is the camera that we had. We had a couple of really nice lenses, which really made a huge difference. Sure. But it was pretty much most of the money went into post sound, and travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How so in post sound? What was it, like the mixing, or is this the music?
It was mostly the mixing. There was this really great place out in DC where I had gone to prom with this friend of mine in high school, and he was working at this really great like sound studio in DC, and they work with Nat Geo and Discovery and some really great companies, and they were very, very kind to me. They had these really beautiful suites, and they cut me a really kind deal to work on a project that's clearly like, they're like, it's a heart project. You know?
It really makes a difference though. Having like a legit sound mix and the color, even, it's like, that's such a, so important.
It's so important. And I learned so much, and I would really never want to make a movie for $4,000 ever again.
Oh my God.
But my second movie was $1,000.
Oh really?
It was $1,000.
Wow.
In waitress money. I was like pulling like staples out of like tip money to like pay for stuff.
No way.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere.
You just got to do it. I literally was like beg, borrow, steal. Seriously. Like I shot in a diner where I used to work and like do all my pre-production for my Arkansas doc. And they would always like look over my shoulder and, think it was cool what I was working on. But I also looked like the Unabomber because I had maps all over the place. It was just like me eating French fries late at night, like staring at maps. They're like, listen, like, we love movies. If we can help, let us know. And like a year and a half later, I went back and I was like, remember me? You said you wanted to help. I need a diner. For like a night.
Yeah.
And they were so kind. They were so gracious. And I did actually, for the second movie, I held auditions in their diner. And like one of the owners would come over after a girl would leave and he'd be like, I didn't like her. She had bad vibes. And I was like, totally agree.
That's amazing.
They'd like wait for like the next person to come in. They'd be like, I didn't like her. She didn't tell you she had a face tattoo, right? And I was like, she did not tell me she had a face tattoo.
That's an important thing to tell somebody.
So the owner of this diner was like my casting assistant for the night. And they're just great.
That's great. Isn't it? It's always about the people that you work with. And if you're making a project by yourself, it's just not going to be worth it. You're not going to enjoy it at the end of the day.
And I feel like I tend to be the captain of the ship. And when people like to join the crew, it means the world to me because it is really about executing my vision. And a lot of times when I said I was going to make a movie in Arkansas, most people told me I was just legitimately insane.
Does that drive you? Because I know
a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of am like, watch me.
Yeah.
Like, watch me. Like, you can't make a movie for $4,000. Watch me.
That motivates me, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a positive
They're like,
thing.
you can't do that. I'm like, watch me. Because I know all the ways that we can't get something done. Mm-hmm. I know all the ways that people are going to tell you no, and they're going to tell you it's implausible and you don't have enough resources. I know all the ways things don't get done. I want to work with the people who get creative, and they show me the way we can get creative and how we can get it done. Like, that to me is far more interesting, because I know all the ways people are going to say no. And I know all the ways that we don't have enough money to make it. Mm-hmm. But if I don't work with people who say no, I work with people who be like, well, this presents a new interesting challenge. How do we work around it? How do we make it happen? Because for me, you tell me no, I kind of laugh in your face and I do it anyway.
Yeah. I think it's very much, that's the mindset that I have as well.
I'm a jerk like that.
Yeah, that's the mindset I have as well, because I think I started out with very DIY. Mm-hmm. It was like, I first wanted to be on camera and do sketch comedy videos, and that's where my passion was in high school and college at least. But then I had to just figure it out and start doing it myself, and I started to get paid to make videos. So I was like, all right, maybe I can do this. And then you just realize you have to kind of learn everything yourself. And I could wait around and try to get an internship or a job somewhere else, but I was like, well, if I just keep kind of honing this craft and doing it outside of college, outside of classes, then I can build something my own, and I don't need anybody's help to do it.
Right.
It's in a lot of ways very stubborn, but
it is.
It works.
It's very stubborn. You're like, I want to do this, or I want to see. Like, I wanted to see a film like the one I'm developing now. Like, that's the kind of movie I crave. So you wait for somebody else to make it, or you find the way to make it yourself. And so I literally just was learning as I went. I remember shooting The Port of Indecision. I was in Arkansas. It was maybe like a week in. And I just was like, I don't even know like what I'm shooting anymore. I flipped out. I called a friend of mine, and he was like, docs are found in post. Just like follow your vision and like keep shooting. And that's kind of like life advice. When you're like panicking, you're like, just like your journey is your journey. Like, wherever you are is, whether you like it or not, like where you're supposed to be right now. So like, just keep going. And people just, no is a word I hear a lot. I think it's a word we all hear a lot. And so it just kind of drives me though.
Yeah. I got that similar advice. I was talking to Matthew Heineman. He directed Cartel Land, and I was just doing an interview for Mike.com. And he said, he basically, if your story doesn't change along the way, then you're not listening.
Right.
Which is like, you just have to keep following it and keep pursuing it. And I love that advice. You find your docs in post, because that's so true.
You literally just have to like follow where your subject is taking you.
Which is like, it's actually relieving in a lot of ways. Because then it's just like, keep filming, keep rolling, shoot as much as you can. And that's the one thing that I learned, even on the smallest of shoots, film as much as you possibly can.
Exactly. I had 18 and a half hours of footage. The film was 20 minutes. And I told the team, it was my first film. I was like, we are going to overshoot.
Yeah.
I intend to overshoot. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to give myself options. I just didn't know what I was going to find. And so I just kept shooting. And there's some stuff that I loved. I just loved it. And I had to cut it. Mm-hmm. I had to cut it. And it at first it was heartbreaking, and I was like, I won't do it. But it wasn't guiding the audience right. Like, there was this beautiful interview I did with Jerry's wife, Lisa. And they have this enchanted forest. And it's acres and acres of these long, tall trees that are planted in a row. And it's just stunning. And it's golden hour. And there's these fireflies behind her. And they're like starting to twinkle. And she's sitting on the floor of this forest that she's been a part of this land since she was a child. It was her grandfather's land. And she's talking about like the beauty and like the wealth of just being around the people you love. And it was this beautiful interview. And in tone, I just ultimately couldn't use it. And it was very hard at first. And I had this really wonderful friend of mine tell me, she was like, it's Kill Your Darlings. Like, nobody thinks you don't love it, but it's about making the film work and guiding the audience.
You have to be ruthless.
You do. You have to. And there are things, it just was so hard for me to let go of, but you get better as you go on.
What I found is fun is I did minimalism and just tons and tons of footage, like hundreds of hours of footage. It was insane. We did 25 interviews.
People have no idea like how much effort a documentary really takes. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, we did the recut. So we had like two versions of the film, and then this was like 2015, the beginning of 2016. were recutting the film, and I was putting usually about 12-hour days in for like 3 months straight.
Yeah, it's
like,
hard.
My girlfriend would leave the apartment at 7 a.m. and I'd be working. Or actually, she wouldn't leave at 7 a.m. I'd start working at 7 a.m., but she'd leave at 8 or 9, and she'd get home at 7, 8 p.m., and I'm still working. I literally, and like, when I get really busy, I eat coffee and peanut butter sandwiches, and that's all I eat. And
sounds so healthy for
oh my God, no, it's amazing. Yeah, like literally I started to whittle away.
I can't say that because I literally just will keep working and forget to eat. And then it's like 11 o'clock at night, and then I eat everything. I
set alarms. So I like now, because my brain isn't good. So if I set an alarm and it's just like, Matt, do this, Matt, eat, Matt, go to gym. And then I need to, like, basically my past self reinforces the healthy habits I need to be having right now.
That's a good idea. I'll keep that one in mind.
Yeah. Use alarms. That's definitely helpful.
Yeah, I tend to sit on the floor. I have a cat who likes to just like crawl around in all my maps. And I just sit on the floor and I just do all my research. I got like usually a laptop over there. I have my desktop available and I'm just like working away. It's just a lot of research and a lot of reading.
Well, I think at every point along the way, it's all about getting massive amounts of information, whether it's through research or actual footage,
right?
And then it's curating and cutting it down. And it's very similar to like the practice and ideas within minimalism and simple living, where you're getting rid of physical things. But in a movie, to be able to find out what's important and to be able to figure out what your story is, you just have to go through everything and then kind of put it into little buckets, organize, and figure out how I'm going to structure this.
I'm big on note cards. Like
you do that?
Every sequence kind of comes on, I write it down on a note card, and then I can just sort of visually see them, and then I rearrange, and I rearrange again. And then certain times I'll even they get color coded. It gets really intricate.
Yeah, I've done that as well. You're highlighting it.
Yeah, or you'll be like a certain character's a certain color, so you can see which characters are too heavy in the front half of the movie versus the back, and make sure they all kind of feel like they get the same amount of playing time, if that was the intention. It becomes a bit of a process, and I tend to stay up all night just
Did you edit that project?
I did not. Okay. I am actually, though I do a lot of things, but I'm not an editor.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not an editor. I think editing really is its own art form. I truly believe that. I can crassly edit here and there, but I like to hover, and I'm
sure the editor loves that.
I think I'm a pretty nice director to work with, though. I mean, I bring snacks. I'm big on snacks, so. But yeah, I mean, my opinions are strong, but I like to be collaborative, and there's things I don't know how to do that I love to bring another person in and have them help me and work together to create something.
What I'll say is that you've probably developed that direction sense better than I have, because when I edit mostly everything that I shoot, and I just like brain to keyboard, and I'm just going, and I don't think about it. I just have this vision in my head. But then once I did start to hire some people out for editing projects and hire crews for shooting, you have to realize that direction that's in your head that happens so naturally, it's not natural to everybody else, and they don't know what your vision is.
No, unless you can really communicate it, there's no way people see the movie that's in your mind until you literally show them at the end. So yeah, I've definitely developed a style of sort of giving notes and all that kind of thing. But I just feel like editing is its own really magical art form, and it's not one that I particularly know how to do.
Yeah, there's both the technical aspect of it, because then you have the wizards where you're doing shortcut keys and you're just going crazy, and then you also have to understand how to actually
build a story. There is an artistry. It's a very delicate artistry, and I feel like people don't give it enough credit. Actually.
Well, because you watch a movie, and it's just like, well, yeah, of course that's the way it is. Of course that's the way the film was cut.
Right.
That's I could do that. Before I started making feature documentaries, I was the guy that was like, I could do that. I could make that. And it's like, well, do it then. And
put your money where your mouth is, dude.
Yeah. But then once you actually make it, you're like, wait, this is hard.
You're like, wait, this takes a lot of time. You can't just breathe out your documentary in a minute. Yeah. And you're creating, with a documentary versus a narrative, you're creating something out of literally nothing. You don't have a script. Which the new documentary that I'm working on is at least it's a journey. It's a chronological journey. So I feel like that's going to help us in the editing process, is that we have a place where we start and we have a place where we end. And in the middle, it goes in chronological order. So we generally know what order the film is going to be in, which is a little bit better for me than the first film I did, which was a little bit more literally something out of nothing.
Yeah. Were there any struggles on that first documentary that were big learning lessons for you?
Oh my God, all the struggles. Sound, man. Just I needed a sound man. I really did. Sound was a huge thing. I wasn't anticipating sort of being able to handle the stress. It was just for me being the first film. I had placed a lot of pressure on myself to really execute. And a lot of that was because people were skeptics of the project. So the stress really had gotten to me on that one, but we moved through it. And
so how did you guys record sound on this?
We had a shotgun mic that was attached to the camera.
Okay.
So
it's like there's actually now practical things that you have to do differently where you have to stay rather close to your subject.
Yes.
You're probably shooting on all wide angle lenses.
Yep. So things, there was a lot that I learned in that process. I learned also, like, I don't want to make a movie for that cheap anymore. Like,
no, I said the same thing. Mine was actually, I am not going to do everything myself ever again. But
I'm so trying to be on that train right now.
Yeah.
It's not easy for me also to be very honest. I don't always relinquish control so easily.
Yeah.
But I've also found that the reason that is because, I mean, in the past, I've found so many people have tried to steamroll me creatively. And being a woman in the industry can be a little bit of a complicated experience. You want to be easygoing and you want to be a great person to work with, but you also want to execute your vision and you also want to be powerful, but you also want to be feminine and you want to be yourself. So it can be a little bit of a complicated dance. So sometimes you let things go a little too easy, or the crew presses you to get the shot, or say that you have the shot where you don't really feel convinced of it and you sort of let it go. And so I've become more stubborn in really getting what I want, but it's also, I think, can be a little bit of a problem letting go of the control at this point.
Yeah, I think you do have to trust your gut, though. Especially if you don't feel like you got it, you can always get it again.
Right. And if I want to, you know what? And if I'm directing it and I want to take it again, then we're going to take it again.
Absolutely.
We are just going to take it again.
And then do it with a smile on your face and then like, let's go.
But sometimes I've had pushback for sure.
Yeah.
I've definitely had pushback and it's just about navigating it and how to feel okay about saying no and saying yes and executing your vision in a way that you feel really authentic and you feel good about it. Like, I want people, when we work together, when we're on a project, like, it should be fun.
Yeah.
Like, it should be a really joyous experience. I mean, the guys that shot the doc with me, like, the first one in Arkansas, like, they had a beer in their hand pretty much the whole time.
Yes.
And, like, I was good with it because that was part of the nature of being there. Like, I don't want to create a divide, too, when you're filming people. You don't want them to become performative. You just want them to be themselves and then to be able to just capture it in the moment.
And that's the hardest thing, isn't it? Especially for people who haven't been on camera before.
Sure.
To be like, the camera's not there.
The camera is not there. And I think a lot of that is about trust.
Yeah, and alcohol.
And alcohol. No, but I think it really is about trust and building a relationship. Jerry, I love Jerry, like, so much. He's like my Southern dad. I love Lisa. They're really incredible. They're like another family to me. But they don't change when the camera starts rolling. Nothing changes, which is really incredible. But I think that because I knew them and I love them and I had developed this friendship with them, and I have sort of this rule that the first day of the doc, when it's about people, you don't shoot. You just spend time together. You just start to get comfortable. You want everybody to feel good about being where they are. You want your subject to feel like, no matter what, like, we're not there to make them look bad. And that's sometimes, I think, people's fear is they feel like...
So you do like 1 or 2 days, is it where you just kind of hang out with the people?
If
you can.
If I can. Yeah, if I can, like, the day you get there, essentially.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like you have to, because if you just show up rolling... people might put their guard up a little bit.
Right. And you don't want that. You want everybody to really just feel like, I shot this little piece in Vermont, and like half the time the guy I'm filming it about is like, right, Danielle? Like, he literally will just like refer back to me, and it's like, great. Like, I actually love that he's doing that because it means he's really just having a conversation with me.
Yeah.
Or he'll be like, Danielle, can we get so-and-so to come over and sit with us? And you're like, yeah, of course. Like, bring him over. So that they don't think about the camera anymore. That's really ideal. I mean, Graffiti Cowboy, God bless Thrashbird, because he just lets me throw a camera on him all the time, and he doesn't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
He really has just surrendered to the fact that, like, I'll just throw a camera in his face all the time, and he just says, I trust you with my life. Like, it's cool.
Do you have a crew on that, or are you rocking solo for this project? Ultimately,
I have a great deal of people who have expressed interest in working on the project, but until there are certain things in place, I haven't made any official decisions on exactly what the crew will be. But I have some general ideas of who I would like to use and where I'd like to use them. But I'd like to keep it really intimate. He is a bit of a private guy in some sense because what he does is very personal and it's also not totally legal. So he likes to keep people around him that he really trusts. So I really want a small, intimate, like team of people who are going to make everybody feel really good.
Have you seen the documentary Wiener?
No.
So that one was really good. And I couldn't tell you. I could only guess. But it seemed like it was just two camera guys. Sometimes just one camera guy would be following Anthony Weiner, the politician that has just filled his life with scandal.
Anthony Weiner.
It was such an intimate and personal look, and they definitely didn't have a professional sound person. It was like they probably had a little kind of crappy boom mic on top of the camera, and then that was it. But it was the how personal it was, and kind of what you got to see behind the scenes. I'm just surprised that he allowed them to release that. It's amazing, and that's what's interesting. It's not about like the mic or the technology. It's about the story. And if you can have something that's personal and intimate, you can shoot it on, a little
And Thrashbird, I asked him recently, I was like, tell me now, like, what is off limits? He's like, nothing. Nothing's off limits. We can talk about all of it. I was like, everything. He's like, yeah, everything. I trust you with my life.
Yeah. I'm
like, okay. And that's, I don't entirely know why he trusts me. We've developed trust obviously, but I'm like, I still was a relative stranger to you when we met, but we've really worked together for this year and a half, really developing the ideas behind this film and the chapters and the ideas we want to tackle and the roads that we plan to take. It's a 3,000-mile road trip. It's a month in the desert. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
It's going to be really
is necessary.
Trust is necessary, but there's a lot of love there between us. And like, we do look out for one another, and it's become this really also beautiful friendship that I really cherish. So it's so interesting to get close to the subjects that you wind up filming. It's a very unique relationship that you develop.
Yeah. Trust, like you said, it's so important. And even starting minimalism, it was a very similar experience where we were going out on the road for a month or two. And I had known them, these guys, Josh and Ryan from theminimalist.com. I had known them, their work, and we had like been friends on Twitter. And then I did a client project for them for a day, and I met them in New York. But that was it. And then it was a couple months later, like just a few emails back and forth, nothing too big. And then it was like, hey, Matt, I want to make a documentary. And I was like, I'd been meaning to, and I always wanted to make a documentary about something I really cared about. And I actually even thought about this idea of doing a documentary on minimalism. And I was like, this is perfect. But then that was it. And then it's like, I showed up to start filming with them on tour. Like they picked me up at the airport, and I was like, I was super nervous. I was like, all right, guys, you ready to do this? And like, we really didn't, but then you develop a friendship, and I think in some ways we lucked out, but I think you have to trust your gut and intuition that these are people that align with your values and beliefs, and you're going to be able to work together on the project.
What's interesting, I think, that people don't realize about like a documentary and the person who makes it is that as much as the documentary is a reflection of the people that it's about, it's also very much deeply a reflection of the person who made it. Even though you don't see their face, or you don't necessarily, you think that you're watching a movie about another person, but the filmmaker is deeply, deeply embedded in it because they've dedicated so much of their time to it. And those are ideas that they believe in, or they probably wouldn't put it out there, or they're ideas that they feel need to be in the world. And that says so much about the person who made the film, not just about the people that the film is about.
Definitely. So right now you live in LA.
I do. I just moved to LA mid-February.
You were in New York before that?
Yes, I was in New York.
What brought you to New York?
I went to college in New York. I moved to New York when I was 17, the summer before college. And I went to NYU. And I just stayed. I had always just assumed I'd be in New York. And LA was on the table for a while. And then sort of forces in the universe had aligned to a place where it looked like LA was the place I needed to be. So I literally packed up 2 suitcases. I grabbed my cat, Lieutenant Dan, and
that is an amazing cat name.
He's missing a hand, which is maybe one of the cutest things in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, he's awesome.
That's brilliant.
He peed on me in the airport when we moved. He was pretty upset at the whole TSA process.
I bet he was.
Mm-hmm. He was. It was a very stressful day.
That's a sign of protest.
Yes, he was like, I don't want to do this. I was like, me neither, bud. Me neither. I don't want to get on the plane right now.
Yeah.
But we did it. So it was an interesting choice to move. I mean, all my work right now is still scattered around the country. But
making that transition.
Yeah, making the transition. I mean, starting over, the thing you forget is like starting over is literally never easy.
Mm-hmm. The hardest thing, I think, is to make the decision to begin with, because and this is the same thing with any major life change, like breaking up or starting a new relationship or moving.
You're like, you want to start over? You feel like starting over?
Yeah, it's like it's you're comfortable where you are, and so to do something new is a little bit. It's exciting, but at the same time, terrifying.
The easy choice would have been to stay in New York. The harder choice was to go to LA. Mm-hmm. But then you realize you get to your new place and you're like, I don't even have a trash can. You're like, I literally don't have anything. And then you kind of have a moment of panic and you're like, it's stuff. It's all fixable. But like, there are things you don't really think about when you're starting over.
Yeah, we didn't get a garbage bag when we moved in here. And then we're like, literally within 2 hours, we're like, shit, we need a garbage bag.
But you don't think about the garbage bag or like that you don't have any Windex or that like you have no cutlery or things like that. Chairs, right. I was literally working, I was recording voiceover auditions on the floor of my closet.
Yes.
My cat's very noisy, so he tends to yell and you can pick up on it.
I've done have you ever done the blanket over the head?
Oh yeah, the little tent.
You've done a little
that's
fort.
Literally what I did. I had like a little fort in my closet with the door shut, like doing like a Dove voiceover or something.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Just like,
little do they know.
I have like my little shotgun mic and I'm like, Dove Beauty.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. I'm doing like a behind the scenes of, we just made a new an intro video for the podcast. You probably saw the RJ one with the coffee.
Oh my God,
yeah.
RJ.
Yeah, so RJ is the one that made this interview happen.
He is. He's the best.
Shout
we
out
love
to RJ. So I'm doing like a behind the scenes because it's like, I like to think that intro came out pretty dope. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
But like, little do you know, that's me in my apartment, like holding up coffee beans and just dropping them into a bucket.
Right. Yeah. You just got to make it work. They don't need to know how, what do they say? Like, you don't want to know how. Wow.
You don't want to know. That's what they say.
Yeah. You don't want to know how the sausage gets made. That's what the saying is.
Okay.
Yeah. You're like, you don't want to know how the sausage gets made. You're like, it's not like when you pan out, you're like, no, it's not cute.
But you'll like it.
Yeah, you'll like it. Just don't ask questions how it's made.
The original name, when I originally thought about doing a podcast, was last year, and it was just going to be people living in New York, and it was going to be called How to Make It in New York, because I just think it's such a difficult thing to do. And
it's a hustle. It's a grind.
I have no idea. Yeah, there you go. I don't know how people do it though, because I'm like, rent is very expensive, and you're just starting out here. It is a long road to get to where you make it.
I was holding down, when I lived here, like last year, I was holding down about 3 or 4 jobs regularly. Like I would literally hit like 4 jobs in a day.
No way.
Yeah. So I would go to I was the director of outreach at a screenwriting school. I was a TV host for a rock network. I did the motion capture job. I co-owned a pop-up film festival with 2 friends, and the movies, and writing and auditioning.
Sleep as well.
Right.
4 hours a night.
Sleep. Right. Whatever. Sleep is what I just want all the time.
Yeah.
I just want to sleep.
Everything.
But I was hitting like 4 jobs a day sometimes. Wow. And I truly burned out from it. Mm-hmm. It was too much for me. But I did learn a lot I just wouldn't say no to any of the jobs because they all did provide value for me in a different way.
I think that's in the beginning, you have to just bust your ass and work as hard as you can.
Bust your ass. Work hard now so you can chill out later.
Yeah, I don't think I ever worked as hard as when I first and got paid as little as when I first started out.
You're just like, those moments where you see your bank account and it just like hurts you. Mm-hmm. Like I very vividly remember those moments, and they're very humbling.
I don't know why I did this, but I was in college and I was paying for rent with my student loans, which is always a smart decision.
Oh, so smart.
And then I could have asked my parents for money, but I didn't want to. And I was away at school, and at this time there was no easy way to transfer money either. Sure. And I remember there was a week where I was legitimately counting coins and quarters to get the $1 McChicken sandwich at McDonald's. Right. And I did that for a week until I asked my sister, hey, can I borrow $50? She's like, yeah, what are you doing? Stop eating McChicken sandwiches. Yeah. So then I got the double McChicken for the next week. Yes, living large. Yeah, I love it. It was a good week. But yeah, it's humbling, and I think you have to go through that, and I think it actually drives you a bit in the beginning.
Sure, and I think that if you don't go through that, then it's part of appreciating not having to eat ramen noodles. When you can treat your friend to dinner, you're like, it's just this big sigh of relief, because, you know, sometimes it was just like very dicey. You're like, I hope we're only paying for, you know, I hope we don't split this thing between all of us, you know, crossing your fingers. Or like maybe, you know, we just pay for our own thing, you know, but
or like I just got the water, I didn't get a drink.
Right. Oh, I ate beforehand. Yeah. And I mean, I'm very happy those days are behind me, but they keep you gracious and they keep you very humble.
And also actually that's just something that it gives you awareness as well, because then when you are in that situation, you're out to dinner and you know that maybe your friend isn't doing so well. Right. You know, I got this. Like, don't worry about it.
At the end of the day, I'm very big on like, at the end of the day, between friends, it shouldn't really matter that much. It all should be evening out.
It works out.
Yeah. It all should relatively be evening out.
That's what I do in my relationship, where we don't like count things, but my girlfriend's very independent. She would in the beginning want to split everything down from the first date. We are splitting everything. I don't want to feel like I owe you anything.
I respect that.
And then, but then we got to a point where it's like, all right, you know, I'll get this, you get this, and then we just kind of,
you get, you know, like you get dinner, I get dessert, whatever it is. Yeah. It feels good to be able to also, like, there are some people that I used to work with who they're awesome, but I've been able to sort of get them some work and set them in motion on some jobs. And there's 3 of them, and they literally call me mother. They're like, oh, I heard you spoke with mother. And it like warms my heart, because they're these 3 like really talented, hungry, like just like sweet kids. I mean, they're not really kids. They're, you know, several years younger than me, but they're not kids. But I remember it's not easy. And I remember, so I was kind enough to have someone that kind of looked out for me and tried to help me find work. And the fact that they call me mother just, I mean,
Conrad, you don't call me father.
Yeah, right? Papa, can you hear me? Yeah, they call me mother. That's so and nice. They all work in the same place still. And I still talk to them quite a bit, but it's just not easy. And the kindness of other people goes very far. Like, I really will give you if you are a good friend to me, and I'll just give you the shirt off my back if you need it.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
But if you burn me, it doesn't go well.
Do you hold a grudge?
You got to burn me pretty bad. Yeah. But yeah. There's a blacklist for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've had that. Definitely.
But you have to burn me like real bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to keep a grudge though. Like, I remember even growing up.
You're nicer than me.
Yeah, probably. I remember just going to bed, right? Just being so mad at my brother. And I'm like, I'm not even going to talk to him for a week. And the next day I'm like, morning, Mark.
No, like there's certain people, like if I walked into a room and I saw them, I would immediately walk back out of the room.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, and that's actually a very adult thing to do. Well, and not to walk up in their face and start yelling at them.
And that's because I don't like to fight. It's not something I like to do. Yeah. I would really much rather talk things out. But if you've burned me bad enough that like I literally will have like a visceral reaction. Like I get nauseous when I'm around certain people who are really like not good for me. Yeah. I literally will just leave. Like if I showed up at a party and somebody I just would leave. I wouldn't even feel bad about it. I'd be like, sorry, I'm out. Like I'm not doing this.
I think that's about knowing yourself. And there are certain people that will go to a party, see somebody, and they know, whether it's an ex or somebody else, where they know it's gonna like turn into this big thing, and they stay there. And it's like, no, just leave. Just don't even put yourself in the room.
My dad says there's no need to put yourself in an emotional Cuisinart if you don't have to. Like if you really like don't have to do it. Like if you are not, like if you don't show up to set and like your ex is on the crew with you, like you have to deal with that. Like you can be professional, whatever. But if you walk into a party and there's someone you don't want to see there, man, like no party's worth it to me that I'm just willing to like stick it out and, you know, get into it and make myself uncomfortable and unhappy. There's just really no reason. There's plenty of people who want to make my life uncomfortable and unhappy.
Right. You always have a choice.
Right.
So you're excited about LA? It's something that I'm thinking about doing at some point in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to start over. There's a lot of potential, and it feels sort of like I did when I moved to New York when I was 17. Like there is this sort of youthfulness to being new and to discovering a whole new city the way that I did when I moved to New York. It was all new and exciting, and I thought I'd never learn the subway system. And, you know, like I never thought I'd figure everything out, and I never thought that I would have the friends that I did, and I wound up building a life here. And I know that this is the beginning of for LA for me, where I don't know my way around that well. I'm like, I'll never learn this city, but then you start to figure out, oh no, that's east, that's west, and you start to find your way. And I'm excited to sort of see where my life is going to grow in LA.
Yeah, and it becomes any place can become home if you stay there for long enough.
Exactly, and I still am lucky enough to have my community in New York. Like when I left, everyone's like, "What?" I was like, I'm not dead, you know, like everything's fine. You know,
we have people probably got upset, huh?
Yeah, some people got very upset. My mom really was not so happy about it. My dad probably at heart was not so happy about it either, but they sort of ultimately understood and believed that I was making the right choice. So.
I told my parents I was thinking about moving to LA. My mom, it broke her heart. Like she melted. I was like, oh no, Mom.
Like mom was very upset at the idea of me being very far away. I don't think anyone in my family has ever lived that far away. We're really East Coast people.
Yeah, same here. But I think it's like, for me, like traveling and flying across the country is no longer a big deal because I do it so much. But for my mom, who hasn't been, you know, she goes on one flight every 10 years. Right. For her, it's like the opposite side of the world.
Right. It just feels very far.
Yeah.
But, you know, my family's talking about coming to California to visit me. And, you know, I just saw them yesterday. I literally got in from Maryland last night. So, you make the time and, you know, the internet is amazing, and we have phones and Skype and all sorts of things. So I find that some of my conversations with my friends who live back east or who don't live in LA or have gotten in a way deeper and more important because we're placing more value in the time that we have together.
Right, and
even if it's just on the phone.
Yeah, and you figure out the people that really are your close friends because a lot of times it's about proximity. So your friends are the people that you are close to literally physically.
Right.
But then once you move away, you kind of, those relationships that are important grow.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I have a really great friend in Colorado, and I talk to him every single week. Every week he picks up the phone, he calls me or I call him, and we just say hi and check in, and you can tell sort of based on our energy, like how the other one's doing. And it's this really like beautiful friendship that, I mean, he lives in Colorado and I live in LA, and we've been friends since we were 18, and yet we still talk on the phone once a week, and it's important to both of us. And a lot of people I know are like, well, who even talks on the phone anymore? I'm like, I do. I talk on the phone because it's pretty nice to hear my friend's voice.
Are you ready for rapid fire?
Oh my gosh. Rapid fire. Is that, do we put in a musical cue here?
Yeah, I got to do that. That's what the last guest said. I need to.
Dun, dun, dun.
There it is. That's the musical cue.
Wait,
give me a musical cue. Ready?
Dun, dun, dun.
Great. I'm going to use that for every episode.
Great. Oh, goody. Oh,
it's like, that's going to cost you.
Right.
Let's say somebody's stuck, and what one thing that can they do today, do you think that would at least be the right step forward for them?
For me, coming out of college, it was really difficult to find a structure. And I felt, because you've been conditioned your whole life to be in school, that you don't really know how to use your time. So what I started doing is I would do 3 things a day for my career. If you're an actor, that could be working out. It could be, you know, submitting some headshots. It could be reading a new play. But I just find 3 things a day that make me feel like I'm working towards my goals, as small as they are. And that oftentimes will help get me through to the next sort of day and the next step and the next place I need to be.
Yeah, it's really... It's so important what you do every day. It doesn't matter what you do once in a while.
No.
So the things that you make a habit of are going to become the foundation for your business or your career.
Right. And really, I just say, like, try 3 things a day. As small or as big as you think they are, just the 3 things make you also feel like you've accomplished something, even on a day when you have to do a bunch of stuff and run a bunch of errands.
What drives you? Why do you make stuff?
I make stuff because I just can't imagine not making stuff. I've always just feel like that there's so much in my mind that if I don't get it out, I'll go a little nuts. So for me, it's just like a race to get everything in my brain out into the world.
Good answer. How do you face doubt?
My own doubt or others?
That's a good question. Let's do both.
My own doubt it's a wrestle. You know, you doubt and resistance is something I think every artist comes into contact with. But I think it's the knowledge that like what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing. And so I think my doubt in myself sometimes to me is more debilitating than anybody else's doubt in me. Because like we were saying earlier, like if you doubt me, I'm like, watch me. Somebody else doubts me. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, you have no idea what I'm about to bring your way. Yeah. And that's fine. Like, I'll watch you eat your words later. I don't really care. Mm-hmm. Nobody is harder on me than I am on myself, truly. So for me, it's my own doubt that I tend to wrestle with. But at the end of the day, I know that I wouldn't stop. Like, stopping is not an option. Reworking, reconfiguring, definitely an option, but there's no way I'm just going to be like, you know what? I'm done. I'm out of the game. Mm-hmm. It just won't happen. So the doubt is just something you wrestle with because you know you're never going to give up.
What one tool or skill have you developed or leveraged in a way that you think other people haven't?
I am astonishingly good at networking. Mm-hmm. I've really found myself to be very good with people. I think documentary filmmakers tend to be because you become an observer and you start to understand people better and you become really good at listening. But I'm very good at developing relationships and friendships with people that wind up becoming the work. And in a way, it doesn't feel like work at all. So for me, I'm very much big on the networking. And like I said, I'm weirdly good at it.
Yeah.
There's an on switch.
Yeah.
There's definitely an on switch. It's like, all right, turn it on. And it can be a little draining and a little exhausting, but it is this tool that I've learned to engage as needed.
It's so valuable.
It's so valuable. And I really do love people. I think people are fascinating. So it's never inauthentic to me. Mm-hmm. But it is, I'm very aware of how to work a room and how to talk to people and how to make people feel heard. Is a lot of what it is. There's a lot of nonsense that gets spouted, and feeling heard means a lot to people. Yeah,
I do. Like, intentions are so important. But I do think it is a skill that you can develop, and it's something that you really should. You don't have to be like the center of attention.
No,
but to
not
be
at all.
able to be yourself, your own humble self, and meet and network
because
with people.
People want to get to know you.
Yeah.
They don't want to get to know a performative version of you, and they want you to know them. We all want to just be known by each other. We just want to feel heard and understood. So when you actually develop like an authentic relationship with somebody within your industry, it's very powerful. It's a really incredible thing that can happen from that is that they just want to find ways to work with you because you guys want to be around each other, you know, like you guys want to work together. And that's half of it. Most of the time, like people don't have the luxury of getting to work with people they really want to be around. And being independent and being in film, we kind of have that opportunity. So building those relationships, I think, is so valuable. And I really believe in also like two-person networking. Tag team networking is an incredible way. If you go to an event with a friend, you send the friend to the bar. And you basically, when they're gone, they're like, oh, you have to meet my friend Josh. Like, Josh, oh my God, he's like the nicest guy. He's like, so talented.
You guys are like pickup artists.
Yeah, no, but you're like, I mean, he's so humble. Like, he'll never even talk to you about it. Yeah. Then your friend returns with your beverage and they look at the friend a little bit differently and they don't really have to say much.
Yeah.
And it's really incredible how that works is that you basically like vouch for your friends and people see your kind relationship and your working relationship to another person and they think, I kind of want that. Mm-hmm. And somebody gave me a piece of advice one time, and it was that everybody needs to feel like they have a shot with you. Whether it's like, oh man, like I kind of want to be her best friend, or like, I don't know, like maybe I could date that girl one day, or you know, not in a way that is like inauthentic or like in a tease, but people just want to find people they want to be around. Mm-hmm. So it's partially like giving that to people and like opening yourself up to that.
What kind of mindset do you need to have to actually finish a project? Because I think starting a project is often easy. But
very easy.
To finish it is another story.
It's like ruthlessness. It is like the inability to accept no. Because, am I allowed to curse a little bit on this show?
Fuck yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank God. Whew, I feel like I've been holding my breath this whole time. No, I mean, I say that no matter how successful you are, no matter how much money you have, no matter what you have built, there's literally always going to be somebody who is trying to fuck up your shit. Like always. Mm-hmm. So you really just have to persevere and you just have to move through that. Like, you just have to know that that's going to happen. Somebody is going to try and like ruin your day and fuck up your shit. And that's always going to happen. So it's about being so laser focused and so clear in your idea that you feel like possessed almost to finish it, because it's really easy to start a project and it is not easy to finish one. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely encountered many hurdles in finishing projects. I've had DPs ghost me mid-project. Like, I've had some things happen. I've had some shit happen.
Yeah, shit has happened.
And I was like, you will not prevent me from finishing this film. Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of my movies is shot with 3 DPs on 4 different cameras, because that's what I had.
That's great.
And that's what I had to do. And I wasn't going to not finish the movie. Mm-hmm. And that was, it just was not an option. I was like, just get it out of your brain. Like, get it out there. And it was like I said, it was 3 camera guys with 4 cameras over the course of like a year and a half. Like, it was insane for a 6-minute movie. But I was like, this cannot break me. I cannot just let it not happen. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna half make this movie.
One final question.
Yes.
Name one thing people need to watch, listen to, or read before they go to bed tonight.
There's this really wonderful book by a gentleman named George Lois. It's called Damn Good Advice for People with Talent. He's actually my very dear friend's grandfather, and I've had the privilege of meeting this guy, but he's a brilliant mind, and he was a great ad executive from the 60s. He did all the Esquire covers. Muhammad Ali with the arrows in him, Andy Warhol drowning in the soup can. And he's really just has this really incredible mind. And this book was very powerful to me. It's a super easy read, and it really is damn good advice for people with talent. And it's what I was in a job that was really negative for me, and I would cry in the bathroom all the time. And it was a creative job. I was a creative director at a media outlet, and it was a major media outlet. And I thought it was like the job of my dreams, and they were trying to take a little bit of advantage of me, it felt like, and they were trying to trick me into working on spec, and I was very unhappy, and it was very hard for me to sort of develop the courage to sort of quit and say, like, I'm not doing what you hired me to do. Like, I don't really think you know what you want. And this book kind of gave me the courage to really stand behind my own vision and know that, like, it's okay. Like, your vision is strong enough to stand on its own. So, like, damn good advice for people with talent for sure. But I mean, in terms of listening, like, I guess I'm about to go on tour with Citizen Zero. Mm-hmm. They're just such an incredible band. I'm such a punk rock kid at heart. They're this great band out of Detroit. They're amazing guys with like an incredible amount of musicianship. They have this great album, State of Mind, that's out. They have another one that's in the works. And I just feel like I feel like America needs more rock and roll right now. Mm-hmm. I feel like it is like, I really do feel like rock and roll is one of America's finest exports. And I feel like it's been so underappreciated in the last 10, 15 years. I just feel like people haven't been drawn to it. But I think that some of the unrest that people are experiencing right now, like, I think they need a little more rock music in their life. So Citizen Zero too, but that's just because I'm excited to go on tour on Thursday.
That's great. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
All right. So how should people connect with you online? Where do you want to send them?
I'm not a tweeter. I'm not into it personally, but you can find me on Instagram at it's Danielle Eden, like the garden. And my movies are, one of them is available on Vimeo on demand. You can find the link on my Instagram, but
You'll find it in the show notes as well.
Oh, you will also find it in the show notes.
There we go.
So yeah, you can find me online. I also have pages on Facebook for all my films, as well as a public page for myself. So, I mean, I love meeting new people. I love when people reach out. It's very exciting for me. So
yeah, well, it was very great to meet you and hang out with you.
I mean, this is our first time meeting, so this has been really fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh my God, it was my pleasure. I loved it.
Thanks for listening to the show. For a limited time, I'm going to give something special to those who give us a review on iTunes. I'll send you the hour-long interviews I conducted with the producers of Minimalism, a documentary about the important things, including interviews with Josh and Ryan from theminimalist.com, as well as our media team, Spire. You'll get the full scoop on how we made the movie, the lessons learned, and all the things we would have done differently. They're really fun conversations that I think you'll get a lot of value from. Leave your review and send a screenshot of it to mattdiavella@gmail.com. These reviews help to get the word out for the show, so it would mean a lot. You can subscribe to The Ground Up Show on iTunes, YouTube, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. This episode was produced by Conrad Golubek as well as myself. See you next time.